The silent strike. The Galactic Council's Grand Chamber had never felt so silent. 12,000 years of carefully maintained order were unraveling in a single moment. High Counselor Vextel's crystalline form trembled as the holographic displays showed the impossible. Human vessels appearing simultaneously across restricted sectors of space, their signatures unlike anything their sensors had cataloged before. "Explain," Vextel demanded. All four of their sensor stalks focused on Admiral Zorak, the Council's chief of defense. The massive Croaxian admiral scales had dulled to an ashen gray, a clear sign of distress in their species. "High Counselor, we don't know how they breached the containment grid. Our sensors show no point of entry. They simply appeared, as if they had been there all along." The chamber erupted in murmurs. The containment grid had been the Council's pride for millennia, an interlocking network of quantum sensors and gravitational anomaly detectors that made it impossible for any known form of propulsion to pass undetected. Or so they had believed. Admiral Sarah Chen watched the chaos unfold from the bridge of the ESS Nightingale, humanity's first Phantom-class vessel. Her dark eyes reflected the tactical display showing hundreds of Council ships scrambling to respond to their sudden appearance. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. "Status report," she ordered, her voice calm despite the weight of the moment. Humanity had spent 5 years preparing for this day, ever since they'd discovered the Council's true nature. All ships reporting green, Admiral. Lieutenant Commander Jackson responded from his tactical station. "The quantum mimicry systems are holding steady. As far as their sensors can tell, we've been here for months." That was humanity's first great secret. They hadn't breached the containment grid at all. They'd found a way to hide their ships in plain sight, using advanced quantum technology to make them appear as natural space phenomena until the moment they chose to reveal themselves. "Signal from the Avalon and the Phoenix," Communications Officer Liu announced. "They're in position near the Council's primary shipyards. Captain Rodriguez and Captain Patel await your command." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The Council had always seen humans as primitive newcomers to be contained and eventually subjugated. They never bothered to look deeper, to see how humanity had learned from their own mistakes and conflicts to build something far more advanced than mere warships. "Open a channel to the Council chamber," she ordered. It's time they understood exactly what they're dealing with. The massive view screen at the front of the Council chamber flickered to life, revealing Sarah's image. Several Council members recoiled at the sight of a human addressing them directly in their most sacred space. "Honorable members of the Galactic Council," Sarah began, her voice carrying no trace of hostility despite the circumstances. "I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Space Force. We apologize for this unconventional entrance, but you've left us no choice." "How dare you?" Vextel began, but Sarah continued undeterred. "For the past decade, you've been implementing your containment protocol, positioning your fleets to eventually force humanity into submission. We know about the hidden weapons platforms near our colonies. We know about the engineered economic crashes you were planning. We know everything." The silence in the Council chamber grew heavier. Sarah's words struck with precision, confirming their worst fears. Their secret plans had been exposed. "What you don't know," Sarah continued, "is that while you were watching our official ships and tracking our registered colonies, we were building something new. Something you couldn't predict because you never truly tried to understand us." On cue, the Nightingale's quantum mimicry field shifted, revealing its true form. The Council's sensors struggled to process what they were seeing. A ship that seemed to phase between different configurations, its hull composed of self-repairing nanomaterials that could adapt to any form of attack. "Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology," Sarah explained, her voice carrying a hint of sadness. "It's our ability to learn from our mistakes. We've seen where the path of domination leads. We've fought our own wars, nearly destroyed ourselves more than once. But we evolved. We grew. And now we're offering you a chance to do the same." Multiple displays in the Council chamber suddenly activated, showing data streams that made the senior technicians gasp in disbelief. The humans weren't just revealing their presence, they were sharing technological breakthroughs that the Council's best minds had deemed impossible. "These are our gifts to you," Sarah said. "Clean energy systems that could power entire sectors without pollution. Medical technologies that could save species you've deemed too costly to help. FTL drives that don't damage space-time. We're not here to fight. We're here to show you a better way." Admiral Zarak stepped forward, their military training warring with growing curiosity. "You reveal yourselves with an armada, yet speak of peace. Why should we trust your intentions?" Sarah's expression softened. "Because we're giving you a choice that you never gave us. Look at your displays. Every human ship currently revealed in your space is transmitting its full technical specifications. We're showing you exactly what we're capable of, not to threaten, but to prove a point." The Council members studied the data with growing amazement. The human ships weren't just advanced, they represented technological approaches that the Council had never considered possible. "You can order your fleets to attack," Sarah continued. "We would defend ourselves, and the outcome would be costly for everyone. Or you can accept our invitation to build something new. A true galactic community where advancement comes through cooperation, not control." High Counselor Vextel's crystalline form shifted through various colors as they processed the situation. 12,000 years of tradition and control balanced against the undeniable evidence of their own failures. The humans had not only escaped their containment but had done so while developing technologies that could transform the galaxy. "The Council requires time to deliberate," Vextel finally announced. Sarah nodded. "You have 24 hours. Our ships will remain in position, continuing to broadcast our technical data openly. Study it. Consider what it means, and then decide if you want to be remembered as the Council that chose to grow, rather than the one that clung to control until it shattered." As the transmission ended, Sarah turned to her crew. "Send word to all ships. Maintain current positions but keep defensive systems passive. Let them see that every word I spoke was true." The next 24 hours would determine the galaxy's future, but humanity had planned for every possibility. And Sarah knew that even if the Council chose conflict, the revelation of their presence had already changed everything. The age of secrets and suppression was over. The silent strike had been perfectly executed. Now they would see if the Council could learn what humanity had discovered long ago. That true strength lies not in the ability to control others, but in the wisdom to know when to let go of control and embrace change. Echoes of deception. Dr. Marcus Rivera stood in his dimly lit lab aboard the research station Prometheus, surrounded by holographic displays showing thousands of decoded Council transmissions. 5 years ago, these very transmissions had changed everything. He remembered the exact moment when the true nature of humanity's supposed allies had become clear. The discovery hadn't come from advanced AI analysis or complex decryption algorithms. It had come from something uniquely human, pattern recognition based on cultural understanding. Marcus had noticed that the Council's supposedly unbreakable encryption contained subtle rhythmic elements similar to ancient Earth poetry. "Play it again," he muttered to himself, gesturing at the central display. The original transmission flickered to life, its complex harmonics filling the room. To most humans, it would have sounded like random noise, but Marcus had spent his life studying how different species communicated, and he knew that even in encryption, cultural fingerprints remained. The door slid open, and Admiral Chen entered the lab. "Dr. Rivera," Sarah said, "the Council has started their deliberations. I thought you should know." Marcus nodded, his dark eyes never leaving the displays. "They'll try to find a way to maintain control. It's embedded in everything they do. Even their language structure is built around concepts of hierarchy and dominance." "That's why we needed you," Sarah replied, stepping closer to examine the cascading data. "Our quantum computers could break their codes, but you helped us understand their thinking." Marcus finally turned to face her. Have you ever wondered why they never suspected us? Why they thought their containment strategy would work? Sarah raised an eyebrow, inviting him to continue. Because they don't understand growth through cooperation. Their entire civilization is built on controlled evolution, carefully managing the development of younger species to ensure they never become true rivals. Marcus gestured at the displays. Look at their archive records. Every advanced species they've encountered in the past 12,000 years has been guided into a predetermined role in their hierarchy. The displays shifted, showing historical data about dozens of alien civilizations. Some had been subtly directed toward purely artistic pursuits, others toward theoretical science, with carefully limited practical applications. Each had been contained and shaped according to the Council's grand design. But humans were different, Sarah said, a hint of pride in her voice. We were impossible to predict because we don't develop linearly, Marcus agreed. We share ideas, combine technologies in ways they never imagined, and most importantly, we cooperate. When we discovered their plans, instead of each nation trying to save itself, we worked together in secret. The displays changed again, showing the massive hidden infrastructure humanity had built while maintaining a facade of limited development. Quantum shipyards concealed in dimensional pockets, research stations phased just slightly out of normal spacetime, a complete shadow civilization operating beneath the Council's watchful eyes, the quantum mimicry technology that lets our ships hide in plain sight. Marcus continued. It came from combining Indian theoretical physics with Nigerian energy distribution systems and Brazilian biomimetic engineering. No single human nation could have developed it alone. The Council never saw it coming because they couldn't conceive of genuine cooperation on that scale. Sarah moved to another display, this one showing the Council chamber in real time. The alien leaders were engaged in heated debate, their usual formal protocols forgotten in the face of humanity's revelation. They're afraid, Marcus observed, not just of our technology, but of what we represent. We're proof that their entire system of control is built on a false premise. That's why we're not giving them a choice between submission and destruction. Sarah replied. We're offering them something they've never considered, the chance to evolve beyond control. Marcus pulled up another set of decoded transmissions, these ones from the younger species under Council dominion. They're already reaching out to us through back channels. The Arxer, the Nelkai, even the Zenith Collective. They've all seen what we revealed and recognized the opportunity. How long before the Council realizes their controlled hierarchy is already dissolving? Sarah asked. It's already happening. Look, Marcus highlighted certain data streams. Communication patterns between supposedly isolated species have increased by 300% in the past 6 hours. They're not just talking to us. They're talking to each other. The mere possibility of genuine cooperation is causing a cascade effect. Sarah smiled. Then we've already won, regardless of what the Council decides. Not won, Marcus corrected. We've initiated change. What matters now is how we guide that change. The Council spent 12,000 years teaching these species to depend on hierarchy. We need to help them learn to stand on their own. A priority alert flashed across the displays. The Council was requesting another audience, well ahead of the 24-hour deadline. They've reached a decision already. Sarah frowned. That's faster than we expected. Marcus studied the incoming data streams, his expression thoughtful. No, look at the subspace readings. 3 of their oldest colony worlds just activated quantum communication arrays we didn't know about. They're not calling us to deliver their decision. They're calling us because their own people are demanding change. Sarah straightened her uniform. Then we better not keep them waiting. The real work is about to begin. As she turned to leave, Marcus called after her. Admiral, remember, in all their history, they've never faced a situation where control wasn't the answer. They'll need our help to imagine a different way. That's why we came prepared to teach rather than conquer. Sarah replied. Humanity's greatest weapon has always been our ability to inspire others to grow. The displays continued to flicker with increasing communication traffic across the galaxy. The Council's perfect hierarchy was transforming into a chaotic web of possibilities, and in his quiet lab, Marcus smiled, knowing that the real revolution wasn't in the ships or the technology. It was in the simple idea that different species could work together as equals. The echoes of the Council's deception were fading, replaced by the first notes of a new symphony of cooperation. The galaxy was changing, one conversation at a time. The Phoenix Protocol. Captain Diana Wright stood at the helm of the ESS Avalon, watching as her ship's quantum architecture shifted in response to the Council probe's scanning beam. The vessel's adaptive hull rippled like liquid mercury, its very structure learning and evolving to counter each new attempt to understand its capabilities. "They're trying frequency band Theta 9 now," reported Lieutenant Emma Santos from the science station. "Shall we show them something interesting?" Diana nodded, a slight smile playing at her lips. "Initiate Phoenix Protocol, Phase 1. Let's give them a peek under the hood." The Avalon's exterior transformed, portions of its hull becoming transparent to reveal layers of technology that the Council's scientists had deemed theoretically impossible. Quantum processors that operated across multiple dimensions, biological computers that used engineered bacteria to perform calculations faster than light, power systems that drew energy directly from the quantum foam of space itself. "Incoming transmission from the Council science vessel," Communications Officer Chen announced. "They're requesting permission to send a scientific delegation aboard." "Now that's interesting," Diana mused. In the 12,000 years of Council records they decoded, there wasn't a single instance of them requesting permission for anything from a younger species. "Put them through." The holographic display materialized, showing a Tellurian scientist. Their crystalline body structure vibrated with barely contained excitement, an emotional display that would have been considered highly inappropriate by Council standards. "Captain Wright," the Tellurian spoke, their translator struggling to convey their enthusiasm. "I am Chief Researcher Vexlon. What we're seeing, it violates everything we thought we knew about quantum mechanics. How is this possible?" Diana gestured, and holographic displays appeared around her, showing the basic principles behind the Avalon systems. "The better question, Chief Researcher, is why you never thought it was possible. Your species mastered quantum engineering 5,000 years ago. You had all the pieces to develop this technology. What held you back?" The Tellurian's crystalline form shifted colors rapidly, a sign of deep thought. The Council's scientific development guidelines state that quantum manipulation on this scale would be inherently unstable. The risks were calculated based on assumptions that were never questioned. Diana finished. "Humanity learned early in our development that our greatest breakthroughs often come from challenging established beliefs. When we face a wall, we don't just look for a door. We question why the wall exists in the first place." Around the Avalon, more Council science vessels were arriving, their sensors drinking in the freely offered data about technologies they had never imagined possible. Diana knew that similar scenes were playing out across Council space as other human ships revealed their capabilities. "But the adaptive systems," Vexlon continued, their voice filled with wonder, "they're not just mechanical. They're learning." Diana touched a panel, and a new set of displays appeared, showing the Avalon's neural network. "We discovered that the best way to create truly adaptive technology was to let it evolve naturally. Every system on this ship is part of a living network, growing and learning from experience, just like organic life." "That's impossible," another Council scientist cut into the transmission. "Artificial systems cannot evolve like biological organisms. The complexity." "Why not?" Diana challenged. "Who decided that artificial and organic systems couldn't be merged? Look at your data. Our ships aren't just machines. They're ecosystems. Each component evolves in response to its environment, just like any living thing." The scientific debate that followed was unlike anything in Council history. Traditional protocols were forgotten as researchers frantically exchanged theories and questions. Diana noticed that the younger scientists were the most engaged, their minds less constrained by centuries of controlled development. "Captain," Lieutenant Santos interrupted, "we're detecting quantum signature changes in the Council vessels. They're trying to replicate some of our basic systems already." Diana smiled. This was exactly what they had hoped for. The Council's rigid control of technological development had created a pressure cooker of suppressed innovation. Given even a glimpse of new possibilities, their scientists' natural curiosity was breaking through centuries of conditioning. "Send them the full technical specifications for our early quantum integration systems," she ordered. "Let them see the development path that led us here." "Captain," her XO, Commander Jackson, spoke up, "are you sure about this? Those specs could help them understand our defensive capabilities." "That's exactly why we're sharing them," Diana replied. "The Council built their power on hoarding knowledge. We'll build peace on sharing it. Besides," she gestured at the Avalon's constantly evolving hull, "by the time they understand these systems, we'll have developed new ones. That's the real secret they need to learn. True innovation never stops." The hours that followed were a revolution in themselves. Council scientists abandoned their formal restrictions, engaging in open exchanges of ideas with human researchers. Theories that had been suppressed for centuries were suddenly being discussed and expanded upon. The very nature of what was possible was being redefined. "Message from Admiral Chen," communications reported. "The Council has called for an emergency session. Apparently, the scientific community is demanding immediate changes to the development guidelines." Diana watched as more Council ships arrived, not to threaten, but to learn. The Phoenix Protocol had worked exactly as intended. By revealing their advanced technology freely, humanity had sparked something that no amount of control could contain: genuine curiosity and the desire to grow. "You know," she said to her crew, "in all our simulations of first contact scenarios, we never predicted this one, winning not through force or diplomacy, but by simply showing them what's possible when you let go of control." "Incoming request," Lieutenant Santos announced, trying to hide her amusement. "The Council scientists are asking if they can share our data with the Arxer researchers. Apparently, they have some theories that might complement our quantum field calculations." Now that, Diana smiled, is exactly what we were hoping for. Genuine cooperation, born not from our demands, but from their own desire to learn and grow. The Avalon's hull continued to shift and evolve, each change representing another step in the ongoing dance of innovation. But the real transformation was happening in the minds of those watching. The realization that the universe held far more possibilities than their controlled development had ever allowed them to imagine. Hands of Peace. Ambassador James Chen stood before the gathered representatives of 17 species in the makeshift assembly hall aboard the ESS Harmony. The station's quantum-shifted space could accommodate the unique environmental needs of each species, allowing them all to meet in person for the first time in galactic history. "Welcome," he began, his voice carrying across atmospheres carefully calibrated for each delegation. "For too long, you've been told that your differences made cooperation impossible. Today, we prove that diversity is not an obstacle. It's our greatest strength." The assembled representatives were a striking sight. The crystalline Tellurians floated near energy beings of the Zenith Collective. Methane-breathing Arxer shared space with silicon-based Nelkai. Species that the Council had deliberately kept separate for millennia were finally meeting as equals. The Council's containment protocols didn't just limit your technological development, James continued. They prevented you from sharing your unique perspectives, your different ways of solving problems. They claimed it was for stability. We believe it was because they feared what you could achieve together. A Nelkai representative rose, their silicon form catching the light. "The Council told us our biology made us incompatible with organic species. Yet here we stand, sharing ideas freely. Already, Our silicon-based computing theories are being combined with human quantum systems to create something entirely new. Exactly, James smiled. Every species here has been told what they couldn't do, what they couldn't become. But look at what's already happening. The Arxur's methane processing technology combined with zenith energy manipulation has solved the atmospheric crisis on 3 worlds. Tellurian crystal matrices are revolutionizing human data storage systems. This is just the beginning. The room hummed with energy as more representatives shared their experiences. Centuries of enforced isolation were ending, and the results were beyond anything the Council had imagined possible. Message from the Council chamber, James's aide whispered. They're demanding we cease these unauthorized interactions between species. James broadcast the Council's message for all to see, triggering a wave of amusement through the gathering. The old threats carried no weight now. The representatives had tasted real cooperation, and there was no going back. Let me be clear, James addressed the assembly. Humanity has no desire to replace the Council as galaxy's rulers. We don't believe in ruling at all. What we're proposing is a new kind of community, one where each species contributes their unique strengths and perspectives. A holographic display activated, showing a new station under construction. Unlike the rigid, standardized designs of Council architecture, this structure was fluid, adaptive, incorporating elements from all their cultures. This will be the home of our new alliance, James explained. Not a power structure, but a meeting place. A place where we learn from each other, where we combine our knowledge to solve problems that none of us could handle alone. The Council claims such cooperation goes against natural law. An Arxur representative rumbled through their methane atmosphere. That competition and dominance are the only way. Then let's prove them wrong. James's voice carried conviction, born from human history. Our own past taught us the cost of that thinking. We nearly destroyed ourselves before we learned that real strength comes from working together. Now we offer you the same choice we faced: to grow beyond the limitations others placed on you. The assembly erupted in discussion, ideas, and proposals flowing freely between species that had never been allowed to communicate directly. James watched with satisfaction as ancient barriers crumbled. Sir, his aide approached again. We're receiving requests from 32 other species for permission to join the assembly. And she paused, checking her data. 3 members of the Council have privately expressed interest in supporting our initiative. James nodded. The momentum was building faster than even they had predicted. The Council's carefully maintained order was transforming into something organic and alive with possibility. The Council fears this will lead to chaos, a Zenith Collective member observed, their energy form pulsing thoughtfully. Perhaps they are right. Not all our differences will be easily reconciled. That's exactly why this will work, James replied. We're not trying to eliminate differences or impose a single way of thinking. We're learning to see our differences as opportunities rather than obstacles. Every problem can be viewed from multiple perspectives, leading to solutions no single species could imagine alone. The assembly continued through the station's artificial day cycle, but it wasn't just a meeting anymore. It had become a celebration of possibility. Species that had been restricted and isolated were discovering their potential together. James sent a message to his sister Sarah. It's working better than we hoped. They're not just accepting the idea of cooperation. They're embracing it with an enthusiasm that would terrify the Council if they understood it. The response came quickly. Because you're not trying to control them. You're showing them what they can become when they're free to grow. The Council never understood that true stability doesn't come from control. It comes from giving everyone a stake in building something better. Looking out over the assembly, James saw the future taking shape. Not a future of perfectly ordered hierarchies and controlled development, but something far more exciting. A galaxy of endless possibilities, where different species work together to achieve things none of them could imagine alone. The hands of peace were weaving a new tapestry, one where every thread added its own unique beauty to the whole. And in that moment, James understood that humanity's greatest contribution to the galaxy wasn't their technology or their military strength. It was their ability to imagine and inspire a better way forward. A new dawn. The council chamber had changed. Where once only the highest-ranking members of the oldest species had been permitted, now representatives from across the galaxy filled the space. The rigid hierarchical seating had been replaced by an arrangement that allowed all species to interact as equals. High Counselor Vextal stood at the center, their crystalline form reflecting the light of 1,000 stars. For 12,000 years, Vextal began, "We believe our duty was to maintain order through control. We were wrong." Admiral Sarah Chen, Dr. Marcus Rivera, Captain Diana Wright, and Ambassador James Chen sat together in the human section, watching history unfold. The past week had transformed the galaxy more profoundly than millennia of council guidance. "The humans did not defeat us," Vextal continued. "They awakened us. They showed us that true stability comes not from suppressing growth, but from nurturing it. Not from enforcing uniformity, but from celebrating diversity." The massive holographic displays showed scenes from across council space. Arxer methane processors being installed on dying worlds, their technology now enhanced by human quantum systems. Tellurian crystal matrices interfacing with zenith energy fields to create new forms of faster-than-light communication. Young species, previously restricted and isolated, working together to solve problems that had stumped the Council for centuries. "Look at what has been accomplished in mere days," Vextal gestured at the displays. "Discoveries that our greatest scientists claimed were impossible. Solutions that our wisest philosophers never imagined. All because we finally allowed different minds to work together freely." Sarah leaned toward her brother James. "Did you ever think they'd adapt so quickly?" James smiled. "They were ready for change. They just needed someone to show them it was possible." "The Council as it was must end," Vextal declared. "But something new will take its place. Not a hierarchy of control, but a forum for cooperation. Not rulers, but facilitators of growth." Marcus watched his translation algorithms processing the speech. "Notice how their language is changing. The rigid structural patterns are breaking down. They're literally learning to think differently." Diana nodded. "Same thing we're seeing with their technology. Once they stopped trying to control every variable, their innovation rate increased exponentially. Around them, species that had once been enemies under council restrictions were engaged in animated discussion. The Nelkai silicon beings were working with organic species to design new types of living technology. The energy-based Zenith Collective was learning to interface directly with quantum computers, opening entirely new frontiers of exploration. "There will be challenges," Vextal acknowledged. "Change brings uncertainty. Cooperation between different species will not always be easy, but we have seen the power of diversity, the strength that comes from combining different perspectives." The displays shifted to show the new Alliance station under construction. Its adaptive architecture incorporated elements from all member species, creating spaces where different forms of life could interact and work together naturally. "Humanity showed us this path," Vextal continued, "but they do not seek to leave us down it. They ask only to walk beside us as equals, sharing their knowledge while learning from ours." Sarah stood, speaking for Earth. "That's all we ever wanted. Not to rule, not to dominate, but to be part of something greater than ourselves. To help build a galaxy where every species can reach their full potential." The chamber erupted in agreement, the sounds of dozens of different species creating a symphony of unity and diversity. The rigid protocols that had governed council meetings for millennia were forgotten as genuine dialogue flowed freely. "We've received another 100 applications for Alliance membership," James reported, checking his data feed, "including species we didn't even know existed. Apparently, the Council had classified them as too primitive for contact." "And the research networks?" Diana asked. "Expanding exponentially," Marcus replied. "The quantum communication arrays are barely keeping up with the volume of data being shared. Everyone has something to contribute, some unique perspective that adds to the whole. Sarah watched it all with quiet satisfaction. The humans' greatest weapons had turned out to be not their advanced ships or technology, but their ability to imagine and inspire a different way of existing together. "Message from Earth," her aide reported. "They're asking for a status update." Sarah looked around the chamber, at the explosion of cooperation and creativity that was transforming the galaxy. Tell them that the human dream of a united galaxy is becoming reality, not through force or control, but through the simple power of working together." As the new alliance took shape around them, the old council chamber became something it had never been before, a place of genuine dialogue and shared discovery. The rigid hierarchies of the past were giving way to an organic network of cooperation, where each species could grow while helping others do the same. "You know what the best part is," James mused, watching the proceedings. "This is just the beginning. Every new connection, every shared idea, opens up possibilities we haven't even imagined yet." The dawn of a new era was breaking across the galaxy. The stars themselves seemed to shine brighter, as if reflecting the hope and potential being unleashed. Humanity had not come to conquer the galaxy or to rule it. They had come to help it grow, to show that the greatest achievements come not from controlling others, but from learning to work together. And in that moment, as species that had once been kept apart shared dreams of what they could accomplish together, the true power of humanity's gift became clear. They had given the galaxy not just new technology or new ideas, but something far more precious: the ability to imagine a better future and the courage to work together to create it. The new dawn had arrived, and its light would illuminate paths that no single species could have found alone. I'll continue writing the full 2,000-word first part after confirming you'd like me to proceed with this outline. Each part will maintain the serious tone while showcasing humanity's ingenuity and compassion rather than just military might.